Hello everyone, my name is About and welcome to one of the first videos on this channel. In today's video we'll be talking about one of the more popular topics in War Thunder community, and that is main British shell types and their viability in War Thunder today. For statistics we will be comparing similar BR vehicles of the same class, in this case medium tanks of UK and US. I hope everyone is having a great day wherever you are, and now that we know the terms, let's get on with the video. So, let's look at some facts. The British shell types we're talking about here are the APDS and solid shot. These shell types have no explosive filler in them, and that gives them a bad afterburn effect, which can lead to you having to shoot the target a few times before you kill all the crew, rather than one good placed explosive shot blowing the turret off. This might sound like a downgrade, but here is a catch. These shell types have large penetration values as a trade-off for poor afterburn performance. For a comparison, we'll be using a 6.3 British medium tank Charioteer Mk7 and the US 6.3 T25. When looking at flat values, the Charioteer has an APDS shell that can penetrate 364 mm of armor at 500 meters away at 0 degrees of angle. The shell itself has a velocity of 1,433 meters a second, however it has no explosive mass, meaning it doesn't explode when inside the tank. This shell has a caliber of 83.4 mm, or in this case we'll just round it up to 83 mm. The T25 on the other hand has a shell that has only 173 mm of armor penetration. Damn, at 500 meters away. The shell is flying at 853 meters a second. However, it has 137 grams of TNT explosive mass. This might not sound like a lot, but take into consideration that the Charioteer has none, and so does most of the British Tech Tree. The shell in question has a caliber of 90 mm, which is in this case more than the Charioteer, but the pan values, I don't know, it doesn't really add up. One would say that the American shell is worse than the British one, simply by looking at the penetration values. However, we also have to look at the pros and cons of these shells and their capabilities in battles. The American shell will be one-tapping almost anything it can penetrate. If it can go through the armor of the target, the explosives will kill most, if not all, the crew and possibly ammo detonations. The British shell, on the other hand, will only damage the part of the tank in front of it in a cone-shaped area. This can lead to some interesting situations happening where you feel like you should have been getting a kill but only get an overpen or just take out a single component of the tank you're firing at. To show this better, let's take both tanks out for a test run, shall we? Let's start with a T25 attack on a Panther. As we can see, the shell itself cannot penetrate the Panther's front plate armor. We're only tickling it. Aim the gun up, hit the Panther in the cheek, and boom! That's a shell detonation inside the crew compartment, killing all the crew. You can see how the T25 shell one-taps the Panther if you aim at the weak spot. But you can always flank the enemy and one-tap them from the side as a safe thing to do when you don't know where to shoot. Now bring in the Charioteer and let's see how it performs. This time we're using the Charioteer against the Tiger II. As you can see, the shell easily penetrates the Tiger through its front plate, but it takes us 2 to 3 shots to kill a Tiger compared to the Panther cheek one-tap by the T25. This shows us that the British shell is indeed worse than the American APHE. Right? Well, depends on who you ask, but here is my opinion. Now that we saw some of the pros and cons of each shell type, I do have to say that if I was a person that was starting War Thunder now and experienced my first ever battle with the British using solid shot, I would be disappointed, especially if my friend over there is using an APHE shell and just does a better job than me. I mean, how can his targets always explode and mine never do? However, I do have to look at this from my personal standpoint, as somebody with a substantial amount of time spent playing this game. So my opinion is that no, British shells aren't bad, and in fact are very viable in today's War Thunder. It's just a different playstyle to what many people are used to when playing other nations and therefore are not used to taking out tanks with multiple blows. The way I look at it, APDS and solid shots are great if you know the layout of the inside of the enemy tank, and if you value game impact in the shape of crippling enemy tanks and securing assists or kills for your allies. If you value kills and clean consistent damage of an APHE post-pen, then APHE is the shell for you. I personally think that not every tank or shell type, or even a nation, has to be viable in every situation. So when it comes to using APDS and Solid Shot on the UK Tech Tree, you should be prepared that in some situations you will be in a better position than others, while in other situations you will be at a disadvantage. And there is nothing bad about that. This small video has been a blast to make, and I do hope you enjoyed watching it too. If you're interested in more content like this, feel free to subscribe to the channel and check the notification bell, and that way you can be notified of my next video. This was your host Abelt, and I hope you're having a great rest of your day and night wherever you are. Bye bye!